Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Cosmic Lullaby. Tonight we ask a question that sounds impossible, and yet turns out to be one of the safest questions in the universe. Why can nothing, not light, not time, not even a single wandering thought, ever climb back out of a black hole? It is not a trap. It is not a monster waiting in the dark. It is simply a place where falling becomes the only direction left, the way your own breath, right now, only wants to go out and down and out again. We have 4 slow regions to drift through tonight, and you can let all 4 go, because I will carry them for you. First, we approach from a great, forgiving distance, watching space itself curve like a bedsheet settling under the weight of a sleeping body, learning what falling truly is and what gravity actually is, long before we ever come close to falling ourselves. Then we arrive at a threshold, not a wall, not a door, only a hush where light itself stops trying to turn around, and we ask, without any fear in the asking, what it would actually feel like, in the body, to cross it. After that, we drift into a stretch of time so vast and patient, it makes an ordinary night feel like a single held breath, where hours and centuries blur into one long, unhurried afternoon that never quite finishes arriving. And last, we follow the long, careful trail of the humans who first noticed this invisible thing by watching everything around it bend. A story with no monsters in it, only patient eyes and old paper, and the kind of curiosity that doesn't need to be afraid to keep looking. Imagine, for a moment, a single loosening thread, the kind you didn't know your hand was holding until it starts, unhurried, to slip free between your fingers. You don't remember picking it up. You won't remember letting it go, either. That thread is going to run through everything tonight, tying the 4 regions together the way a single low note can hold up an entire song without anyone noticing it's there. You don't have to hold on to it. It was never yours to keep. It only ever wanted to be let go. If this kind of night is useful to you, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake somewhere, listening to the dark, waiting for a voice to make it feel smaller and warmer than it is. That's all it does. Nothing more is asked of you. There is nothing here to hold on to, and nothing here you need to remember. Let your shoulders ease down into whatever is holding you up tonight. The mattress, the pillow, the low hum of the room. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands open, if they were ever closed. Let your feet grow heavy at the end of the bed. Let your eyes lower, even if they're already shut. Settle in. Let's begin. And so the engines fall silent, one by one, the way a held breath finally lets go, and the ship settles into its long drift at the edge of the dark. You are far out here, farther than any worry needs to travel, parked in the kind of stillness that only exists at a great distance from anything urgent. Outside the viewport there is no wind to hear, no hum of machinery pressing against your ribs, only the low patient light of stars that have already finished their traveling for tonight. This is your vantage point. This is where you rest. Somewhere ahead of the ship, invisible except for the way it bends the light around it like a held note, waits a black hole. And tonight's only task is to ask why nothing that falls toward it ever finds its way back out. Not to solve it, not to work at it, only to let the question drift in through the glass the way a tide comes in, unhurried, without needing anything from you at all. There is nothing to do from here but watch, and there is nowhere safer to do it from. The ship has no destination tonight. It has already arrived. Its instruments are turned low, its corridors dim. Its only real purpose now is to hold you at exactly this distance, near enough to see, far enough to never be pulled anywhere you didn't choose. You could stay parked at this vantage for 1,000 years, and nothing out there would ever cross the space between you and the ship. Distance, out here, is not a gap to be anxious about closing. It is a kind of blanket, wrapped loosely around the whole scene, thick enough that nothing beyond it can reach the bed you're lying in. So let your eyes rest on the dark the way they might rest on a familiar ceiling. There is a shape out there worth understanding, and understanding, tonight, is the only kind of movement either of us needs to make. Before we go further, let the ship's low hum become your own. Let your shoulders find the mattress the way the hull has found its orbit, not fighting the dark, simply resting inside it. Because tonight's real subject was never really so far away. It has been waiting inside you the whole time, in the shape of a question you have answered 10,000 nights without ever noticing you were answering it. What does it feel like to cross a line you cannot see, into a place you cannot return from, and be perfectly safe the entire time? Falling asleep is exactly that. There is no instant you can point to and say, there, that was the second I stopped being awake. You search backward for it in the morning, and you never find the seam. One moment you are a person listening to a voice in the dark, and the next, you are somewhere else entirely, carried across a threshold so soft it left no mark on you at all. That threshold, that quiet, unmarked line a person drifts across without ever feeling the crossing, is the same shape as the line we are floating beside tonight. Astronomers have a name for it. They call it the point of no return. And the strange, comforting truth we are going to spend the whole night unfolding is that a point of no return is not a wall, not a trap, not a place where something bad reaches out and takes you. It is simply the last place from which turning around is still an option, the same way the last thought before sleep is the last place from which staying awake is still an option. Past it, there is no struggle. Past it, there is only the falling itself, which is not a loss at all, only a continuing, in a direction that has already been chosen for you by something larger and steadier than effort. So hold that thought loosely, the way you might hold a warm stone in an open palm. And let's look at what actually waits for us out there in the dark, so far past the bow of this ship that its light takes longer to reach you than most human lives. A black hole, at its heart, is a very simple idea wearing a very dramatic name. It is a region of space where gravity has, in a sense, won completely. Not violently, not by force in the way we usually picture force, with clashing and breaking and noise. It has won the way a very deep silence wins over a room, by being so complete, so total, that nothing manages to leave. In most places in the universe, gravity is a tug, a suggestion, something you can outrun if you go fast enough. A rocket leaves Earth by moving faster than Earth's gravity can insist on. Starlight leaves the sun and simply keeps going, unbothered, for millions of years. But there is a certain amount of matter that, when gathered into a small enough space, curves the region around it so steeply that even light, the fastest thing there is, the thing every other escape in the universe is measured against, cannot climb back out. Light goes in. Light does not come out. That is, in its plainest form, the whole idea. A place so deeply folded in on itself that the very fastest kind of leaving is no longer fast enough. And notice, if you like, how gentle that definition actually is, once you set the frightening name aside. A black hole is not a mouth. It is not reaching for you. It is not hunting the ship you're resting in tonight, tucked safely at this enormous distance, watching its dark shape the way you might watch a slow tide from a warm porch, close enough to admire, far too far to be touched by it. It is simply a place where the geometry of space has folded past a certain point, and once you understand that, the word impossible in tonight's question stops sounding like a warning and starts sounding like a fact of shape, as ordinary and unthreatening as the fact that a valley collects rain, or that a low note settles at the bottom of a chord. Nothing about it is malicious, it is only complete. Consider, too, how much of the universe is built from exactly this kind of hushed completeness, boundaries that ask nothing of you, that simply are what they are. A shoreline does not chase the sea back out, it only marks where water gives way to sand. A horizon on Earth does not pursue the sun, it only marks where your sight runs out. The boundary around a black hole belongs to that same unthreatening family of lines, a place where a description changes, not a place where a hunger begins. You are allowed to find that beautiful instead of frightening. You are allowed, especially tonight, to let the size and darkness of it become part of what helps you rest. The way a tall old house at the edge of a field feels less like a warning and more like a marker of how long some things have simply been standing, patient, unbothered, exactly where they are. But to really understand why nothing escapes, to feel it in your body rather than just hear it as a rule, we have to go back to a much older, much smaller question. One that has been sitting quietly underneath everything we've said so far. We have been using the word gravity as though we already know exactly what it means. Everyone does. It is the thing that keeps your blankets from floating off the bed. The thing that pulls a dropped cup down instead of sideways. The thing that has been patiently keeping your body pressed to the mattress since the very first moment you lay down tonight. It seems like the simplest force in the universe. It is, in fact, the strangest one. And it is worth asking, calmly, unhurriedly, with nowhere else you need to be, what is gravity, really? Not the story about the falling apple everyone half remembers from a schoolroom, but the deeper picture underneath it, the one that eventually explains why a big enough, dense enough gathering of matter can bend the road out of a place so sharply that no road remains. Think, for a moment, of the word itself. Gravity. We use it so casually that it has almost stopped meaning anything at all, the way a favorite word worn smooth by repetition starts to lose its edges. But underneath the everyday use of it is one of the oldest riddles matter has ever posed to the creatures living inside it. Why does mass reach across empty space and change the path of things it never touches? An apple falls without a rope tied to the tree. The moon circles the earth without a hand guiding it. A ship, resting far outside a black hole, still feels the faintest, most negligible whisper of its presence, simply by existing in the same universe. Something is being communicated across all that emptiness, and for centuries, no one could say quite what. Tonight, we finally will. Not with equations, not with anything you need to hold on to or remember, just with a picture, a shape, something you can let settle into your body the way the mattress is already settling beneath you. That is where we drift to next, not away from the ship, not away from this safe, restful distance, but downward, into the quiet architecture of falling itself. Because before we can understand why light cannot leave a black hole, we have to understand what it even means for anything, light included, you included, to fall at all. So the ship drifts, engines hushed, and the question hangs in the dark where you left it. What is gravity, really, that it could ever build a wall no light can climb? It is a fair thing to wonder, out here, weightless and unhurried. For most of your life, you have known gravity the way you know your own name, as the apple falling, the pull downward, An invisible hand reaching from the earth to your ankles and drawing you in. That was Newton's picture, and it served the world well for 2 centuries. A force leaping across empty space, mass calling to mass, the moon held in its long patient orbit by an invisible thread of attraction. It is a good story. It is also, we now know, not quite what is happening. Einstein looked at the same falling apple and asked a stranger question. What if there is no hand at all? What if space itself is not the flat, empty stage we imagine, but something closer to a fabric, a vast, pliant expanse that bends wherever mass rests upon it, the way a heavy body settles into a mattress and draws the whole surface gently downward around it? Not just space, either, but spacetime, the fabric of where and when woven together into one continuous thing. Every star, every planet, every quiet drifting ship leaves its own faint impression in that fabric, a dimple in the shape of the world. And here is the turn that changes everything. An object moving near that dimple is not being seized and hauled inward by some invisible force. It is simply continuing forward in the only way forward remains available to it, along a landscape that is no longer flat. Picture it this way, since you have all night and nowhere to be. Imagine you are moving in what feels, to you, like the straightest possible line. No swerving, no choice, no effort, and the ground beneath that line happens to curve. You do not decide to follow the curve. You do not fight it or surrender to it. You simply keep going straight, and straight in a curved place turns out to look like a curve from the outside. That path has a name, borrowed from the old geometers who first drew shapes on curved surfaces, a geodesic. The straightest available road through whatever landscape you happen to be standing in. The moon does not orbit the Earth because something is towing it in a circle. The moon is moving as straight as it possibly can through a space-time the Earth has gently bent around itself. And that straight line, in that bent place, closes into a loop. A river stone at the bottom of a bowl behaves the same way. If you like a smaller picture, set it near the rim and it does not need to be pushed toward the center. The shape of the bowl alone decides where straight as possible leads, and it always leads down, toward the low point, tracing the same unforced spiral again and again until it settles. Fall, then, in Einstein's telling, is not a pull at all. It is a following. It is the shape of least resistance made visible, written into the curvature of the room, rather than commanded by any hand within it. And is this not, in its own quiet way, exactly what happens to you each night? You do not haul yourself into sleep by force of will. The way you might haul a rope hand over hand, you cannot muscle your way there. Anyone who has lain rigid and effortful at 3 a.m. already knows this in their bones. Sleep arrives, when it arrives at all, as a release rather than a labor. The mind stops holding itself rigidly level. Some inner tension gives way, and the whole of you simply continues along the path of least resistance until that path leads down, and under, and away. There is no pull dragging you from wakefulness into rest. There is only a softer geometry opening beneath the ordinary shape of your evening, the mattress taking your weight, the light going low, the day's small urgencies losing their grip one by one, and you, following the straightest, easiest line available to you, which happens, tonight, to lead towards sleep, the way a river never decides to descend a mountain, but simply cannot help doing anything else. Nothing is required of you but to stop resisting the slope you are already standing on. Let your shoulders find that same unforced descent now, here, wherever you happen to be listening from, not commanded into stillness, only permitted into it, The way a body finally consents to be curved gently downward by whatever fabric is holding it. This reframing is not just a poetic flourish, it is the actual architecture of the universe as we have come to measure it. Starlight bending around the sun during a solar eclipse, first captured in 1919, was not light being tugged by a mysterious hand. It was light following its own straightest path through spacetime that the sun's mass had curved, and the light dutifully bent along with the curve, exactly as Einstein had calculated it must. Clocks on mountaintops tick a hair faster than clocks in valleys, because time itself is part of that same curved fabric, and the depth of a dimple in spacetime changes not only how things move through space, but how quickly they move through time. Gravity, it turns out, was never a force reaching out across a gap. It is geometry. It is the shape of the room you are already standing in, and always were. Even the ordinary act of standing still, feet planted on solid ground, belongs to this same geometry. You feel weight beneath you not because the earth is reaching up to seize your ankles, but because the ground is interrupting a fall you would otherwise be quietly making, pressing against you, holding you up out of the straightest path spacetime has already drawn for you, the one that leads, ever so patiently, toward the planet's own center. That is why, in the calm of a body finally allowed to lie down, weight seems to loosen at last. The interrupted fall is permitted, for a little while, to resume its long, slow slide, the mattress cradling rather than opposing it, the whole frame settling into the curve it had been quietly straining against all day. Which leads, gently, to the harder question, the one this whole night is built around. If gravity is simply curvature, a bending of the road beneath your feet, then how bent could a road ever become? A planet like the Earth barely dimples the fabric at all. You would have to look closely, with delicate instruments, to notice the sag. The sun bends it more, enough to nudge a beam of starlight during an eclipse, enough to hold 8 worlds in their long, unhurried loops. But these are shallow curves, gentle grades, nothing a determined traveler, or a beam of light moving at the fastest speed there is, could not eventually climb back out of. So imagine, now, the curve growing steeper. Imagine the dimple in that soft fabric deepening, and deepening further, the walls of it drawing closer together and rising higher, until what began as a gentle basin becomes something closer to a well, and then something closer to a throat. Somewhere in that deepening, there must come a point, mathematics insists there must, where the grade becomes so steep, so absolute, that not even light, moving as fast as anything is permitted to move through this universe, retains a straight path leading back out. Every geodesic, every straightest possible line available to anything at all, would bend so completely inward that outward simply stops existing as a direction. That is the whole riddle of a black hole, really, distilled to its geometry. Not a hungrier gravity, not a stronger hand reaching further than other hands, but an ordinary curving of space-time taken to its most extreme, most complete conclusion. A slope so steep that falling and staying become the same act. That following the straightest path and vanishing become indistinguishable. Nothing about the rule changes. Light still simply follows its geodesic, the same as it always has, the same as it does when it grazes the sun on its way to your eye. It is only the shape of the road beneath it that has been pushed past every gentle threshold we are used to, folded so deeply upon itself that no straight line leads away again. But a curve that's steep does not simply exist in the abstract, floating free in a diagram. Something enormous has to happen to bend space-time that far. Some vast weight has to gather and hold and finally give way, for a dimple to become a well that deep. And so the question that opens naturally in front of us now, out here in the calm and the quiet, is where a curve like that could possibly come from. What kind of story, written in starlight over millions of patient years, ends in a bending so complete that light itself loses the road home? And a curve steep enough to trap even light does not appear from nowhere. It is built, patiently, inside a furnace far larger than our own sun, over a stretch of time so long that entire mountain ranges on Earth would rise and wear back down to nothing while it works. So let the ship drift a little closer in memory, not in distance, back to the beginning of the object we are watching. Back to the star it once was, breathing its long, bright breath. Picture a star many times heavier than our own, early in its life, glowing white-hot at the center, fusing hydrogen into helium, helium eventually into heavier elements still. Every one of those reactions pushes outward, light and heat and pressure straining against the star's own weight, a hand pressed flat against a door that wants to close. And gravity, meanwhile, pulls the other way, drawing every particle of the star toward its center, asking the whole vast sphere to fall in on itself. For millions of years, these two hold each other in balance. Outward push, inward pull. A held breath that somehow keeps being held. The star does not fall, because it is always in the middle of catching itself, fusion answering gravity, heartbeat after heartbeat, on a scale of light years and epochs instead of seconds. But a star only has so much fuel, and eventually the furnace runs low. It fuses lighter elements into heavier ones, and heavier ones into heavier still, moving down a ladder that grows less generous with each rung, hydrogen to helium, helium to carbon, carbon onward, through the periodic table's long middle stretch, each stage burning faster and giving back less than the one before it, the way a long day's energy thins toward its final hours. Eventually the star reaches iron, an element that, unlike all the others before it, gives back less energy than it costs to make. It is, in a sense, a fuel that no longer pays for its own burning. There the outward push begins to falter, the way a held breath finally has to end, the way held weight can only stay lifted for so long. And when the pushing stops, there is nothing left standing between the star and its own gravity. Nothing dramatic announces this. No trumpet, no lurch. It is simply that the reason to keep resisting has run its course, the way any of us eventually run out of reasons to stay upright at the end of a long, long day. What follows next depends on the star's own weight, and here is where the universe draws some careful, exact lines. Lines we can rest inside, rather than fear. If what remains after the outer layers are shed is light enough, gravity pulls it inward only so far before something new holds the collapse steady. The particles themselves begin to resist being pressed any closer together, in something like the way a crowded room resists being crowded further. This is what makes a white dwarf, an ember about the size of our own Earth, holding at that size because electrons refuse to be squeezed past a certain nearness to one another. But that refusal has a ceiling. Physicists call it the Chandrasekhar limit, a little under 1.5 times the mass of our Sun. Below that number, the ember holds. Above it, the electron's resistance is simply not enough, and the collapse continues. If it continues, the core falls further still, past the space where electrons and protons even exist as separate things. They merge, in that crush, into neutrons, and for a while those neutrons take up the resisting, packing themselves as tightly as the rules of the universe allow, forming a neutron star scarcely wider than a city, a spoonful of it heavier than a mountain. It is one of the densest, most tightly held forms of matter known to exist anywhere, and yet it is still, in its own way, a kind of holding on, one more layer of the universe refusing, for as long as it can, to give up its shape. This, too, has a ceiling, a little higher than the last one, known as the Tolman-Oppenheimer-Volkoff limit, somewhere around 2 to 3 times the mass of our Sun, though the exact number is still being patiently refined by people who spend entire careers studying these things, comfortable with not knowing the last decimal yet. Below that ceiling, the neutron star holds, spinning in the dark for ages, sending out its slow, regular pulse like something breathing in its sleep. Above it, even neutrons cannot resist any longer. There is, at that point, no known force left to catch the fall. Nothing in physics stands up to volunteer. And so the core does the only thing left available to it. It lets go. This is the moment worth sitting with, because it is not violent in the way the word collapse might suggest to a tired mind reaching for sleep. Yes, outside, in the star's outer layers, there may be a supernova, a brilliant, brief flare visible across galaxies, the star's outer shell thrown outward, in a final generous scattering of the very elements that will one day become planets, oceans, the calcium in your own bones. That part is loud, if you were close enough to hear it, which you never will be from where you are floating now. But the core itself, the part that becomes the black hole, does something closer to release than to violence. Imagine, for a moment, how your own body feels at the very end of a long day, when you finally stop holding your shoulders up, stop bracing your legs, stop doing all the small, invisible work of staying upright, and let the mattress take your whole weight at once. There is no struggle in that release. There is only the stopping of an effort that has, at last, become unnecessary. The star's core, for millions of years, has been doing exactly that kind of invisible work, holding itself up against its own gravity, moment after moment, without ever being allowed to rest. And now, at last, past every limit that might have caught it, it is allowed to stop. It folds inward, and it keeps folding, faster than any sound could report the news, faster than light itself could carry the story outward in time to warn anyone watching. In less than a second, sometimes in a fraction too brief to picture clearly, a core that once spanned a distance you could have driven across in a lazy afternoon compresses down towards something almost too small to hold a size at all. There is nothing frightening in this for you, drifting safely at your great distance. This collapse happened long ago, most likely, to a star that finished its life before your own sun had even finished forming. Its light only now, after all these years, crossing the dark to reach instruments back on Earth. You are not watching a threat. You are watching an ending that has already become something else, a star finishing the last piece of work it ever had to do, and then, at long last, being permitted to lie down. Consider, too, what that star leaves behind besides the collapsed heart itself. The outer layers it scattered outward in its final, generous breath do not vanish. They drift outward for thousands of years, cooling, spreading, seeding the space around them with carbon and oxygen and iron, the very elements that, ages later, might gather themselves into a new star, a new set of planets, perhaps even into something that one day lies in a bed and listens to a story about the star that made it possible. An ending, out here, is rarely only an ending. It is also, patiently, a beginning for something else, unfolding on a timescale too vast for any single watching eye to follow from start to finish. And what is left, once that folding is done, is strange in a very particular way. It is not simply a smaller, denser star sitting where the old one used to be. It is something closer to a change in the shape of space itself around that collapsed heart. Space bent so sharply, so completely, that a boundary forms in it. A line drawn not out of any material at all, but out of geometry alone. No wall stands there. No surface catches the light. And yet, past a certain distance from that collapsed core, the pull is finally, fully complete, steep enough that nothing, not sound, not radio waves, not light racing at its full and unbeatable speed, can climb back out again. That boundary is the part of tonight's story we have been circling since we first set our quiet ship at this safe distance and asked our question. It has no texture, no shimmer, nothing a hand or an instrument could ever touch and confirm. It is a surface made of nothing at all. Only a line where the answer to the question, "Can I still leave quietly?" changes from yes to no. And it is there, at that unmarked edge drawn out of nothing but curved space, that we will rest our attention next. That boundary made of nothing, the one left behind when a great star finally stops holding itself up, that boundary has a name. And tonight, you can hold it in your mind the way you might hold a single held breath before it releases into sleep. Physicists call it the Schwarzschild radius, after the man who first solved Einstein's equations for it, and what it marks is astonishingly simple. It is the distance from the collapsed heart of a star at which escape velocity, the speed you would need to outrun gravity's grip, finally climbs to the speed of light itself. Closer than that line, and even light, the fastest thing there is, the thing nothing in this universe ever outraces, cannot climb back out. For a star the mass of our own sun, folded down to this extreme, that line sits only about 3 kilometers from center. Smaller than many countries you could name, small enough to fit inside a modest city, a whole sun's worth of matter compressed to a boundary you could walk across in an unhurried hour, if such walking were possible. For a star 10 times heavier, the line widens to roughly 30 kilometers, still barely the length of an evening's drive. Still almost nothing against the vastness of the star that made it. You can let that smallness settle in you for a moment. This line is not some sprawling frontier stretched across the dark. It is intimate. It is close. A whole sun's worth of mass, or 10, drawn down into a radius you could sketch on a map of a single county. And yet, within that small circle sits a boundary more absolute than any border ever drawn by any hand. Distance, here, has almost nothing to do with size, and everything to do with what that size does to the space folded around it. And once that radius is crossed, nothing that has ever passed through it, in the whole long life of this universe, has been seen to come back. Not a photon, not a whisper of radio static, not the faintest flicker of returning light. Notice, too, that this radius is not fixed forever to one number. It grows with whatever falls in. Feed a black hole more mass, a wandering star, a slow drift of gas, another black hole entirely, drawn in over some patient span of years, and its horizon widens to match. The way a held breath deepens the more air is drawn into it before the exhale. The boundary is not a scar left by the star that made it. It is a living consequence of however much mass now sits gathered at the center, recalculated fresh from whatever gravity has claimed. It can grow. It has never, in all the history anyone has observed, been seen to shrink on its own. Here is the part worth resting your attention on, because it is where tonight's whole thread quietly reveals itself. The event horizon is not a wall. It is not a shell, not a membrane, not a surface you could touch or knock against or feel yourself pressing into. There is no fence out there in the dark, no line painted across space the way a shoreline is painted across a coast. If you were to travel toward one of these boundaries, safely, hypothetically, from the calm distance where we are floating tonight, and if you looked at the empty space exactly where the horizon is supposed to be, you would see nothing marking it. No shimmer. No seam. No sign at all. It is not a place made of anything. It is a boundary made of causality itself. A line drawn not through matter but through what can and cannot happen next. A line that separates every future in which light might still reach you from every future in which it cannot. Nothing local announces it. No instrument you carried across it, no sensation in your own body, would register the crossing as it happened. The boundary is defined only from outside, only by someone far away watching what does or does not come back. Picture, if it helps the idea settle, standing at the edge of a vast unlit meadow at true night, one so dark that the far tree line cannot be told from the sky above it. You could walk forward for a long while, past the place where the trees actually begin, and feel nothing different underfoot, no threshold, no change in the air, no signpost reading here the meadow ends and the forest begins. Only a friend who stayed behind with a lantern, watching your shape grow smaller and finally vanish among the trunks, could tell you afterward exactly where the line had been. You yourself, walking it, would never feel the crossing at all. You would only, at some point, look back and find the meadow gone. The horizon around a black hole works the same way, except that the friend with the lantern is every observer in the whole outside universe, and the meadow that vanishes behind you is the entire realm of return. And this is the heart of the metaphor we have been carrying since we first parked our slow ship in the calm dark of this night. Think of the last few minutes before sleep actually takes you. Not the drowsiness, not the heavy eyelids, not the softening of thought, but the exact instant itself, the one where waking ends and sleep begins. You have never felt that instant. No one has. You have never lain awake, alert enough to notice, and caught yourself in the act of crossing over. It simply is not available to notice from the inside. The very faculty that would notice it is the faculty being switched off. Only afterward, waking up, realizing time has passed, realizing a dream has come and gone, do you know that a threshold was crossed at all? It is defined only in hindsight, only by what changed, never by any sensation at the moment itself. That is exactly the strange, patient nature of a horizon. There is no local alarm, no trapdoor sensation, no line to feel yourself stepping over. There is only the quiet, absolute fact that afterward, everything is different, even though nothing marked the moment as it happened. Sit with how strange and how strangely reassuring this really is. We tend to imagine boundaries as things: a rope at the edge of a pool, a rail at the edge of a cliff, some object standing between where you are and where you are not allowed to go. But this boundary is made of nothing. It has no thickness. It has no texture, no temperature, no particular brightness or darkness that would let you say, "Here, this is the line." Out in the true emptiness surrounding a black hole, the space exactly at the horizon looks exactly like the space just outside it, and exactly like the space just inside it, in the sense that nothing local, no light, no field, no measurable quantity right there, announces a crossing. What changes is not something happening at that point in space. What changes is everything that becomes possible, or impossible from that point onward. It is less like walking through a doorway and more like the moment a decision becomes final, unremarkable in itself, yet after it, nothing can be undone. So let this settle the way a held breath finally settles into an exhale. The horizon is not a place where something reaches out and seizes you. It is simply the line past which the geometry of space stops offering an outward path at all. And this is where the true weight of tonight's question finally arrives, the one carried in the very title of this quiet hour we are spending together. Why is it that once something has crossed that line, nothing, not a signal, not a whisper of light, not even the fastest, most persistent, most determined beam ever sent chasing after freedom, can ever turn around and come back out? Why should crossing an invisible, textureless, weightless line make return not merely difficult, not merely costly, but truly, absolutely impossible? Impossible in the same complete way that yesterday cannot be lived again. In the same complete way a dream, once dreamed, cannot be undreamed from the inside while it is happening. It is not, as you might first suspect, a matter of insufficient thrust, or the wrong kind of engine, or a delay before help could arrive. No rocket built large enough, no light beamed sharp enough, no force imaginable from within our whole universe of forces could do it. The reason lies somewhere stranger, and in its own way, far more peaceful than any wall or any grip. It lies in what space itself is doing at that boundary, in the ceaseless, unhurried motion of the fabric everything moves through. To understand why turning around simply is not an option anymore, we have to ask what is happening to space itself once you have drifted past that line, because it turns out that inside the horizon, space is not merely curved, it is moving. And once you understand which way it moves and how fast, the impossibility of escape stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like something closer to physics, simply keeping its own quiet, unbreakable promise. So the line is real, even though nothing marks it. A boundary drawn only in cause and effect, invisible to any traveler who crosses it, obvious only to us, watching from far outside, safe on our parked ship, with the engines still murmuring their low, patient hum. And now the title's question finally has a place to land. Why can nothing turn around once it is on the far side of that line? Not a wall, not a fence, just a threshold. And the answer, it turns out, is written into the shape of space itself. Picture a river, wide and unhurried on the surface, the kind you might drift on in a dream, lying back in a small boat with your hands trailing in the water. Far upstream from a black hole, outside its horizon, the current is manageable. It pulls at you. Yes, everything with mass pulls at everything else, but a strong enough engine, a fast enough swimmer, could still push against it and win, could still turn the boat around and paddle back to open water. That is what it means to be outside the horizon. The river is fast, but the far shore remains reachable. Now follow that same river closer in, past the point where the current begins to gather itself, past the last gentle bend, right up to the horizon's edge. Here the water is not simply strong. It has become faster than anything can swim. Not faster than any boat, not faster than any engine, faster than light itself. The fastest thing there is, the one thing every physical law agrees can never be outraced. And that is the entire secret of the boundary. It is not a place where gravity suddenly grows teeth. It is a place where the river's own speed passes the one number nothing can beat. So imagine, at that exact edge, someone aims a beam of light straight outward, straight away from the center, as directly opposite the pull as a beam can be aimed. In open water, far from any such river, that beam would simply leave, clean and total, gone into the dark in an instant. But here, at the horizon, something stranger happens. The light still travels outward. It never stops trying. It never slows in its own frame. It moves at exactly the speed light always moves. And yet, relative to the far-off stars, relative to us on our quiet ship, it goes nowhere at all. It is a swimmer stroking with everything it has against a current exactly as fast as its own effort, neither gaining nor losing, held in place like a leaf pinned motionless on a fast-moving surface, spinning gently but never advancing, never retreating. That is the horizon, defined with total precision, the one seam in space where outward and motionless become, for light, the very same thing. Notice, too, that this river never needed to be violent to do what it does. Nothing about it roars or lashes or seizes. Far out where our ship floats, it is barely a current at all. A faint tug you could mistake for stillness if you were not watching closely. It only grows toward the horizon, patiently, the way a slope grows steeper toward the base of a hill without ever announcing a single dramatic step along the way. There is no moment upstream where the water suddenly turns dangerous. There is only a long, unbroken gathering, mile after mile, each stretch only a little swifter than the one before it, until the accumulated swiftness of 10,000 small increases finally equals something as absolute as the speed of light. Danger, here, was never a lightning strike. It was arithmetic, added up so gradually that no single foot of the journey could be blamed for it. Cross even a hair's width deeper than that seam, and the arithmetic tips. The current is no longer merely equal to light's own speed, it exceeds it. And once it exceeds it, there is no direction, no beam, no cleverness of angle that lets light travel outward anymore. Aim it dead away from the center, and the river carries it inward anyway. The way a leaf aimed toward the bank by a hand is still swept downstream by a current stronger than any hand. The light does not fail because it is weak. It does not fail because something reached out and grabbed it. It fails because outward, as a direction that leads anywhere, has quietly stopped existing on that side of the seam. There is no version of a way left to travel along. Every direction, once you are inside, points to the same eventual place. This is easier to feel if you stop thinking of gravity as a hand and start thinking of it, as we did earlier, as a shape. Spacetime curving under the star's leftover weight, curving so completely near the horizon that it folds every path back toward the center. The way a marble dropped anywhere onto a steep enough bowl will always find the bottom, whichever side it starts from. Physicists have a lovely, spare way of drawing this. At any point in spacetime, you can sketch what is called a light cone. Two mirrored cones meeting at a point, one opening toward every future that point could possibly reach, one opening toward every past that could have reached it. Far from any mass, those cones stand upright, balanced, and the future cone opens generously in every direction, including outward, including away. Near a black hole, the cones begin to lean, tilting ever so slightly toward the center, the way a tall stand of reeds leans in a steady wind. And exactly at the horizon, the lean becomes total. The whole future cone tips over until it points entirely inward. Every possible next moment, every path that leads anywhere at all, lies on the inbound side. Outward is no longer one of the choices on the menu. It has been removed from the geometry itself, the way a room with only one door does not offer you a second door to consider, however carefully you search the walls. There is something almost tender in how ordinary this tipping looks, drawn out on paper. It is not an X marking a trap. It is simply a diagram of cones, each one leaning a fraction more than its neighbor. A whole field of tiny arrows swinging by degrees like sunflowers following a light that has moved behind them. Nobody built a mechanism to force the tilt. It is what curvature does, automatically, the closer you sit to a great enough mass, the same soft, cumulative bending that lets a planet orbit a star without any string tying them together. Deep inside the horizon, the tilt only continues, cone after cone, until even the idea of holding still, of simply waiting where you are without moving at all, is no longer possible. Standing motionless requires a future that includes standing still, and no such future remains on the far side of that seam. Time itself, in a sense we will return to, has begun pointing the way space once did, toward the center, and only toward the center. This is worth sitting with, because it is not really about power, and it was never a fair fight to begin with. We tend to imagine escape as a contest of strength, a rocket with more thrust, a swimmer with more stamina, someone strong enough to finally break free. But nothing here is a contest. There is no wrestling match at the horizon, no tug of war that a large enough engine might someday win. The horizon does not defeat you. It simply removes the option before the question of strength ever comes up. A beam of light, the fastest and most unstoppable thing the universe permits, is not slowed down or wrestled back. It is simply given nowhere to go, the way a sentence with no exit clause is not a hard sentence to escape. It is a sentence in which the very word escape no longer has a matching direction. The impossibility is not a struggle. It is a fact about the map, not a fact about the traveler. And this, gently, is the same shape as something you already know, something you have felt 100 nights without ever needing a name for it. There comes a point, somewhere in the soft descent toward sleep, past which you do not decide to keep sleeping. You do not choose it the way you choose to keep reading a page or keep walking down a hall. The choosing simply stops applying. One moment there is a you deciding whether to stay awake a little longer, weighing it, half a hand still on the wheel, and then, without any single instant you could point to and call the crossing, that decision is no longer available to you at all. The current has already carried you past the place where turning back was a direction that existed. You cannot fight your way back to wakefulness by wanting it hard enough, any more than a beam of light can outswim the river at the horizon. It is not that sleep grows stronger than you. It is that, past a certain seam, waking up again right now simply stops being one of the paths open to you, and you are carried instead along the only path that remains, unhurried, complete, entirely without struggle. So if the current cannot be fought, if outward has genuinely, geometrically vanished as an option, both for a beam of light at a black hole's edge and, in its own smaller nightly way, for a mind settling past the edge of waking, then the only honest question left is not how to resist it. It is what it would actually feel like to stop resisting, what it would feel like to simply be carried. Not thrown, not dragged, not seized by any violent hand, but held, the way a boat is held by a river it was never going to outrun, moving forward on a current that asks nothing of you at all except that you let it carry you. To be carried by a current you cannot fight is not, it turns out, a frightening thing to imagine. So imagine it now, fully, the way you might imagine the last minute before sleep, not from outside, watching, but from within, as the one being carried. Leave the little ship behind for a while. Its lights, its idling engines, its patient crew watching from a safe distance, let all of that recede and let yourself become, instead, the traveler, drifting alone toward a black hole of enormous size, one whose horizon spans a distance wider than a solar system. A hole this large is, in its own way, forgiving. Its curvature, right at the boundary, has smoothed itself almost flat, the way a coastline seen from far above loses all its jagged edges and becomes one long, unhurried line, no sharp corner anywhere to catch on. You are in free fall. No engine burns beneath you. No effort holds you up or slows you down. You have simply been released into the pull of something larger than yourself, and you are following it the only way a falling thing can, completely, without reservation, the whole of you moving together as one piece. The way a body settles into a bed it already trusts. There is no sensation of speed here, even though you are moving faster with every heartbeat. Space has no signposts, no mile markers rushing past to tell your inner ear how quickly the distance is closing. There is only the dark ahead, deepening by degrees, and the wide field of stars behind you, and your own breath, unremarkable, continuing exactly as it always has. Nothing about this moment asks you to brace. Here is the strange kindness at the center of this. In free fall, you feel nothing pulling on you at all. This is not a metaphor bending the physics to fit the mood. It is the physics itself, one of the deepest and most tender facts in Einstein's picture of gravity. A body in free fall experiences no force, no tug, no sensation of falling whatsoever. Because there is nothing locally to resist, every part of you, down to each unhurried breath, each drifting hair, each cell, is following the identical path through curved spacetime, so nothing pushes against anything else. Drop a stone beside you, and it would hang there in your outstretched hand, matching your motion exactly, neither rising nor sinking, as if the two of you had simply agreed, without a word, to fall together. Let a lantern drift from your other hand, and it too would hover, patient, weightless, keeping perfect pace, its small light neither climbing nor falling away from you. This is what physicists call the equivalence principle, and what it means for you, right now, drifting toward that impossibly large horizon, is this: you are weightless. You are held. There is no jolt waiting for you at the edge, no threshold rigged to announce itself, nothing built into the architecture of falling that would ever warn you it has begun. For a black hole this size, the tides, the small differences in gravity's grip between your head and your feet, the stretching that smaller, denser holes would inflict, are so faint here, spread across such an enormous horizon, that they do almost nothing at all. You are not being pulled apart. You are not being squeezed. Your hands still feel like your hands. Your slow heartbeat still finds its own low rhythm, unhurried and entirely its own. You simply continue, exactly as you were, drifting at the same unhurried pace you have been drifting all along, your body entirely unaware that anything of significance is about to happen to it, the way a person walking towards sleep rarely notices the exact paragraph of thought where their mind stops making sense and starts making pictures instead. And so, you drift closer. The stars behind you begin to gather themselves into a bright, distorted ring, bent around the dark shape ahead the way light bends around the rim of a glass. But even this you take in with a kind of low, dreamlike calm, because nothing inside your body is telling you to be afraid. There is no siren built into your bones for this. No nerve ending exists that could tell you, from the inside, exactly where the boundary lies. And then, you cross it. Nothing happens. That is the whole, entire truth of the moment, and it is worth sitting with for as long as you need to. Nothing happens. No flash, no snap, no falling sensation sharper than the falling you were already doing. No instrument in your body rings a bell. No door closes behind you with a sound. The horizon is not a wall you strike or a membrane you tear through. It carries no texture, no temperature, no local sign of any kind. You do not feel yourself become uncatchable. You do not feel the future rearrange itself around you, even though it has. You are simply here, and then you are simply a little further in, weightless as before, held as before, moving at the same patient pace as before. The ring of stars bending behind you the way it has bent this whole way down. This is the moment the whole of tonight has been circling. This is what it means to say that falling asleep and falling past a horizon share the same shape. You have never once, in your entire life, felt yourself cross from waking into sleep. You have felt the drowsy weight settle into your eyelids, felt your thoughts loosen their edges and drift from sentence into image, felt the mattress rise to meet you the way it always does, but the actual threshold, the precise instant when the waking mind hands itself over and the irreversible drift begins, has never once announced itself to you. It has no texture either, no local sign. You only ever know it happened by noticing, afterward, that you are somewhere new, that hours have passed you did not feel pass, that you were carried the whole distance without once being asked to carry yourself. That is the gift hidden inside this idea, if you let it be one. The things that matter most about crossing over, the falling asleep, the falling in, do not require your vigilance. They do not need you awake and watching for the exact second to arrive. They happen underneath your noticing, tenderly, while the surface of you goes on drifting, unaware and unbothered, and only later, if there even is a later, from where you now stand, does anyone learn that a line has been crossed. You were never meant to feel it. That was never the design. The universe, like sleep itself, does its most important work in the dark, without asking your permission or your attention, and it does that work gently, on a schedule that has nothing to do with your noticing. So let yourself keep drifting. There is no rope to grab, no edge to claw back toward, and, here is the second, quieter kindness, there is also nothing left in you that wants to. Whatever part of the mind keeps score, keeps watch, keeps its hand near the door in case a hasty exit is needed, has nothing to do here, because the door was never the kind that closes with a sound. You simply continue, the way a leaf continues down a river long after it has stopped noticing the current at all, the way your own breathing continues long after you have stopped counting it, the way sleep, once truly arrived, simply is, without effort, without struggle, without a version of you standing guard against it. Notice, if you can, how little this drift resembles falling in the ordinary sense, the stomach drop, the sudden floor giving way, the arms that shoot out looking for something solid. None of that belongs here. This is a longer, lower kind of falling, closer in feel to sinking into warm water than to tumbling from a height, closer to the way an evening dissolves into a night you cannot quite pinpoint the start of. The horizon has already passed beneath you, behind you, around you. You cannot say exactly when, and that inability to say is not a gap in your awareness to be worried over. It is simply what this particular threshold is like. It was built by the plain arithmetic of gravity and light, to be uncatchable from the inside, and uncatchable, here, has turned out to mean undisturbed. And yet, here is the one strange, lingering wrinkle in this otherwise seamless drift. the one thread left loose for us to follow onward. If someone far away were watching you fall, a companion aboard that quiet, unmoving ship we left behind at the start of the night, telescope trained patiently on your shrinking shape, they would never actually see you cross. To them, your fall would seem to slacken more and more, your image dimming, reddening, stretching thinner across the sky, approaching the horizon forever, without ever quite, in their eyes, arriving. Two versions of the same fall, both true at once. For you, an easy, uneventful passage over almost before it began. For them, a fall that appears to never finish at all. And that difference, the question of whose clock is telling the truth, and what it even means for time to bend around a thing this heavy, is where the night turns next, into the strange, patient arithmetic of how black holes hold not just space in their grip, but time itself. And this is the strange, tender detail hiding inside that endless fall. To anyone watching from the safety of our parked ship, you never quite finish falling at all. Your light climbs back to us slower and slower, stretched thinner with every meter you cross, until the last image we ever receive of you is a kind of photograph, a single frozen frame of a traveler forever approaching a threshold, never seeming to reach it, red and dim and patient at the edge of sight. That is what gravity does to time when it grows steep enough. It does not just bend the path light takes through space, it bends the very rate at which moments arrive. Down near the horizon, each of your seconds takes longer and longer to reach us, the way a whispered word takes longer to cross a widening room, until from where we drift, you seem to hover forever at the edge, wrapped in a hush that our clocks can never finish counting. But you, the one falling, feel none of this stretching. This is the quiet trick of it, and it is worth resting on, because it is the same trick sleep plays on the one who is falling into it. From inside the fall, your watch ticks the way it always has. Your breath comes and goes at its familiar pace. Nothing around you slows or drags. There is no sensation of being smeared across time the way the distant photograph suggests. Time, for you, remains simply time, ordinary, continuous, unremarkable, even as, from far away, you are being watched frozen at a boundary you have already, silently, crossed. Two true stories are being told about the same traveler at once, and neither one is wrong. One clock, ours, insists you are still arriving. Another clock, yours, has already moved on. This is not a paradox to worry over before sleep. It is simply what happens when gravity is strong enough to make time itself a kind of terrain, sloped and uneven, so that two observers standing on different parts of that slope will never quite agree on what now means for the other. You do not need to resolve it. You only need to notice how peaceful it is that both can be true, that from outside, a threshold can look eternal, while from inside, it was crossed as easily as a held breath let go. Think, for a moment, of how sleep behaves in exactly this doubled way. Someone sitting beside your bed, watching, might describe the whole passage in careful, external language, the eyes closing, the breathing lengthening, the small twitch of a hand settling, a sequence they could narrate second by second, the way our ship narrates your endless, reddening approach. But you, on the inside of that same passage, keep no such record. There is no moment you could point to and say, "There, that was when I stopped being awake." The transition simply isn't available to the traveler making it, only to the one watching from outside with a clock in hand. The horizon of sleep, like the horizon of a black hole, belongs to the witness far more than it belongs to the one who crosses it. And once you are inside, once that photograph image of you has already, unbeknownst to it, been left behind, something curious happens to the geography of what waits ahead. Out here, in the roomy space beyond the horizon, the future is a direction you choose among many. You can drift left or right, forward or back, linger or hurry. But past the horizon, the same tipping of light cones that erased outward as a direction also does something gentler and stranger to time itself. The center of the black hole, the singularity, that final point where the collapsed heart of the star has folded down to something our equations can no longer describe, is not a place you would need to travel toward. It is not marked on any map inside the horizon, not a destination you steer for. It is simply what comes next. It occupies the same relationship to you that tomorrow morning occupies to you right now, not a location, but a moment, arriving whether or not you do anything at all. Every path inside a black hole's horizon points toward it the way every path through a night points toward morning. There is no bracing required, no aiming, no possibility of missing it or of choosing otherwise. It becomes, in the strictest and calmest sense the mathematics allow, simply what happens next in time, and only that, as unavoidable and as unremarkable as waking eventually is for a sleeper who trusts the night to end. This is the part of the story where distances between here and there quietly stop being the only kind of distance that matters, and where the space between now and later becomes just as bendable, just as real. It is not only fiction that plays with this, though fiction has certainly noticed it, and noticed it beautifully. You may already carry, tucked somewhere in memory, an image from a film of an ocean world circling close to an enormous spinning black hole where a single hour spent wading through shallow water on that world corresponds, for a companion waiting safely above in a ship to years passing untouched. The image endures because it is not invented from nothing. It is a poetic exaggeration of something the equations genuinely permit. Park a small enough orbit close enough to a great enough mass, and the gravity there really does thin out the traveler's hour into someone else's years. The same warping of duration that stretches your fall into our endless photograph, just tuned to a gentler, survivable dial. Time near enormous gravity does not merely pass differently in some poetic sense. It passes differently in the most literal sense the universe offers. One clock genuinely ticking slower than another, both of them correct. And you do not need a black hole, or a film, or even much imagination to find proof of this quiet bending closer to home, because it is already humming along above your head tonight, entirely unnoticed, doing its patient work. The satellites that make your maps possible, the ones a phone quietly consults to know exactly where you are on the surface of the Earth, sit far enough above us that Earth's own gentle gravity holds less sway over them than it does down here, and so their clocks drift, ever so slightly, out of step with clocks on the ground. It is a difference far too faint to feel, a matter of millionths of a second each day, and yet if it were left uncorrected, your map would slowly, steadily wander astray, block by block, mile by mile, until a system meant to be precise became merely poetic. So the satellites are built to expect it. Engineers tuned their onboard clocks in advance, nudging them to run at a very particular unhurried pace, knowing gravity and motion together would pull them back into agreement with clocks below. Without that correction, the tiny daily drift would compound into a real and growing error, a handful of kilometers within a single day, a route home quietly redrawn by the very fabric it travels through. It is a small, humming, everyday proof that what stretches time at the terrifying edge of a collapsed star is the exact same law, at a gentler volume, keeping ordinary Tuesdays reliable. The whole universe built from one continuous fabric, taut in some places and nearly slack in others. But never a separate rulebook for the great and the small. The traveler falling past the horizon and the satellite tracing its patient orbit above your rooftop are living out the same sentence, written in the same grammar, only spoken at wildly different volumes. So hold this thought a moment, unhurried, the way you might hold the last image before your eyes finally close. These are not simply invisible wells that trap light. They are objects that reach out and reshape time itself around them, freezing a traveler into an eternal photograph for those who stay behind, while letting that same traveler's own hours pass exactly as they always have. Turning a horizon crossing into an instant for one witness and a lifetime's watch for another, tuning satellites above your city, and in their most extreme form, tuning whole hours into years for a ship daring to circle close. A thing that bends time is, in the truest sense, no longer only a place. It is closer to an event stretched across every observer who has ever looked its way, each of them holding a different but equally true account of when. And once you begin to trust that time can be this pliable, that a single fall can be, honestly and without contradiction, an eternity to one witness and a breath to another, a certain kind of worry can be set down for good. There is nowhere in this story where you are punished for arriving, nowhere you are asked to hurry, nowhere the traveler's own experience is anything but seamless, unbroken, entirely ordinary from the inside. The dread belongs only to the outside view, to the ones left watching a photograph that never finishes developing. The traveler carries none of it. Whatever waits ahead arrives the way tomorrow always arrives for a sleeper, without ceremony, without a countdown, simply taking its turn, which leaves one more question worth drifting toward before the night grows any deeper. If these objects can do this, if they can warp the very river of time around themselves, can turn a single crossing into both an eternal photograph and an unremarkable breath, how large do they actually get, and how far from this safe parked ship of ours do they really lie? Objects that bend time itself must somewhere have a size and a distance from where you are lying right now, and it is safe to ask both questions and let the answers wash over you like a tide that never reaches the shore you're on. Some of these dark cores are almost embarrassingly small for what they can do. A black hole born from a single collapsed star is often no wider than a city, a handful of kilometers from one edge of its horizon to the other, a sphere you could, in imagination, hold cupped between your palms if your palms were made of something that never had to touch it. Picture that, an object with the mass of a sun, all its gravity gathered into something you could walk around in an unhurried afternoon, if walking there were the kind of thing a body could do. It is compact. It is complete. It asks nothing of the space around it beyond what its mass has always been owed, and then it simply sits, in the dark, doing the only thing it knows how to do, which is to curve the room it's in. Then the scale opens outward, the way a held breath opens into a long exhale. At the center of our own galaxy, wrapped in the hush of 26,000 light years of intervening dark, there is a black hole called Sagittarius A, and it holds the mass of 4 million suns folded into a single point of infinite patience. 4 million suns. Say that slowly to yourself, not because the words need extra weight, but because the number deserves the space. And yet, Sagittarius A is, by galactic standards, almost tender in scale. A quiet anchor at the hub of 100 billion stars, most of which go on turning through their long orbits without ever noticing it is there. The way a house can stand for a century around a single low beam in the foundation, unremarked, load-bearing. Still, 26,000 light-years is a distance so vast that the number itself becomes a kind of lullaby. You could not cross it in a lifetime, in 1,000 lifetimes laid end to end, and so in every practical sense that belongs to you. Tonight, in your bed, it might as well not be crossable at all. It is a fact you can hold the way you'd hold a smooth stone, cool, real, entirely without urgency. And then further still, past our galaxy's own soft-lit disk, out among the countless islands of stars scattered through the dark, there are black holes so large the mind has to set down its usual rulers and pick up new ones. TON 618 is one of these. A black hole carrying the mass of tens of billions of suns, its event horizon so wide that if you set its center where our sun sits, the boundary of no return would swallow the orbit of every planet we know, stretching out past where our whole solar system ends, a horizon wider than the entire arrangement of worlds you grew up learning the names of. It is almost impossible to picture, and that impossibility is, itself, a kind of rest. Some things are large enough that the mind stops trying to hold their edges and simply lets them be large. The way you stop trying to count the stars after the first few hundred and just let the whole sky be a single soft field of light above you. But here's the detail that matters most for a night like this one. Every one of these objects, from the smallest stellar remnant to the most staggering giant, is far away. Not far in the abstract, hand-waving way that adults sometimes use to reassure children, but far in the plain, measurable, unpoetic sense that a scientist would write on a page. The nearest known black hole to Earth sits thousands of light-years distant, a smudge of gravity tucked into the ordinary traffic of stars, going about its slow business without the faintest awareness that a species on a small blue world has learned its name. Nothing is approaching. Nothing is due. There is no black hole on a slow drift toward your street, your house, your particular corner of the dark. The numbers involved are so large, the distances so enormous, that the very idea belongs more to the realm of story than to anything the sky is actually doing tonight. You can let that thought settle all the way down, past the place where worry usually likes to nest, because the physics itself offers you nothing to keep watch for. And once you set the sizes and the distances beside each other, a handful of kilometers here, 4 million suns held 26,000 light-years away there, tens of billions of suns further still, past counting, a strange and welcome feeling can arrive, if you let it. It is the feeling of being small, not small in the way that once made you feel unseen or unimportant, back before you understood what smallness actually means out here, but small in the way a single thread is small against the whole weight of a blanket, necessary, held, part of something whose scale has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with your safety. Being small against distances like these is not a diminishment. It is closer to an exemption. The forces that shape galaxies, that bend light around invisible cores, that fold stars into points smaller than a heartbeat, are not forces that have any need of your attention. They were never waiting on you to solve them, or watch them, or hold yourself upright against them. Your body, right now, 4 million times 4 million times too small to register on the scale of what a black hole is for exactly that reason free. Free from the job of vigilance, free from the old instinct that says something this vast must be tracked, must be managed, must be kept in the corner of one eye even while the rest of you tries to sleep. Let that be the shape of comfort tonight. The universe is not asking you to be its lookout. It was building these enormous, patient, distant machines long before you existed, and it will go on turning them long after, on a timescale so far beyond a single life that your waking or sleeping, your watching or not watching, changes nothing about how any of it unfolds. That is not a lonely thought. It is closer to what it feels like to be a passenger on a very old, very steady ship. The engine's already running, the course already set by hands far larger than your own, so that your only real task, the only task actually being asked of you, is to rest inside the part of the journey that belongs to you. Smallness, here, is not something to overcome. It is something to lean into, the way you'd lean into a chair built to hold exactly your weight and no more, no less, fitted somehow to the size you actually are. There is a particular kind of comfort, too, in noticing how ordinary the counting itself has become. Astronomers speak of tens of billions of suns, the way you might speak of the miles between two cities you've driven between many times. A large number, yes, but a familiar one, worn smooth by handling, no longer capable of producing alarm in the person saying it. That is worth borrowing for yourself. The numbers only feel frightening the first time they arrive unprepared, before the mind has had a chance to set them down beside something steady. Once you've turned them over a few times, a few kilometers, a few million suns, a few tens of billions more, always thousands of light years off, they stop behaving like threats and start behaving like facts, the way a familiar hallway stops holding any menace after you've walked it in the dark 100 times and always, every time, found nothing there but your own house, waiting. And beneath even that is a quieter arithmetic still. Everything you have ever loved, everyone you have ever known, the whole warm sum of a single human life fits easily and completely inside the reach of an ordinary evening, inside a bed, inside the small circle of a room, and none of that intimate, entire world requires the black holes to notice it, or approve of it, or leave it alone on purpose. It is left alone simply because the distances are what they are. Nothing has to grant you safety like a favor. The geometry of the universe hands it to you for free, the same way gravity handed you sleep a few movements ago, without asking whether you'd earned it. So the tour of scale ends not with awe alone, but with something tender sitting just behind the awe: permission. Permission to be a small, warm, breathing thing on a small, warm world, thousands of light years from the nearest horizon, under no obligation to understand everything before you're allowed to close your eyes. The black holes are there. They are enormous, and they are far, and they are, in their own cold and silent way, keeping time on a scale that makes a human night feel like the space between two heartbeats. And yet even something built entirely out of one-way passage, out of a boundary nothing can cross back over, turns out, and this is worth sitting with for a moment, before the night carries you further, not to be entirely a place where things simply end. Even the deepest, most irreversible fall in the universe has, tucked somewhere inside its long silence, a kind of answer to a gentler question. After everything is taken in, is there ever anything, in the end, that a black hole gives back? And here, held small and unthreatened inside a universe so much larger than any worry you carry, a new question rises on its own. The way a question does right before sleep, unbidden and easy to hold, does anything ever come back out? You have just spent a while learning that nothing crosses that boundary in reverse, that the current only runs one way, that the horizon keeps whatever it takes. And that is still true. And yet the black hole itself is not quite as sealed a vault as it first appears, because even the most one-way door in the universe has a kind of breathing to it, a rhythm so long and so faint that for most of the black hole's life it barely counts as motion at all. Picture the horizon not as a wall, but as a skin, a thin place where the emptiness of space is not perfectly empty. Space, at the smallest of scales, is restless in a way that has nothing to do with anything falling or drifting. It flickers, faintly, everywhere, all the time, pairs of particles winking into being and vanishing again before they can be measured, a kind of shimmer under the stillness of the vacuum. Ordinarily, this shimmer cancels itself out, a debt paid the instant it is opened. But at the edge of a black hole, where the pull is steepest, sometimes one particle of a pair forms just outside the horizon, and its twin forms just inside, and the current that no light can swim against sweeps the inner one down toward the center before the two can meet again and undo each other. The one left outside is no longer a debt. It is real. It escapes. It drifts outward into the dark as a genuine particle of light. And the black hole, to balance the ledger, loses a whisper of its own mass to pay for it. This is the faint glow physicists call Hawking radiation, named for the man who first worked out that even the most absolute boundary in nature must, in this quiet accounting sense, leak. It is not a beam, not a flare. Nothing you could ever point a telescope at and see. For a black hole born from a dying star, this glow is colder than the coldest night sky, colder than the leftover light from the universe's own birth. So faint it is a kind of theoretical certainty, more than an observed fact. But it means something extraordinary all the same. The black hole is losing mass, atom by imagined atom. Breath by breath, forever, it is evaporating. Forever, here, is worth sitting with, because it stretches the word past any shape your body knows. A stellar mass black hole, tens of times the weight of the sun, would take on the order of 10 to the 67th years to fully evaporate, a number with so many zeros trailing behind it that writing them out would take longer than reading this whole night's script. The universe itself, by comparison, is a little under 14 billion years old, a number that looks almost intimate beside that one. Every star that has ever burned, every galaxy that has ever turned, every sunrise anyone has ever watched from any world, all of it fits inside a sliver of the time this evaporation asks for. It is the slowest exhale that exists, an outbreath so unhurried it makes the drift into sleep look instantaneous, a tide going out one grain of sand at a time, patient past any patience you have ever needed to practice. And that, oddly, is a kind of comfort too. Whatever falls in tonight, whatever fell in millions of years ago, whatever falls in long after the last human eye closes for the final time, is not gone in some violent final sense. It is being held, and very, very slowly, given back to the dark it came from. Given back is what, though, is where the physics gets tender and unresolved, and where it is honest to say that some of the best minds studying the sky are still, in a sense, dreaming on the answer. When something falls into a black hole, a star's worth of matter, a wandering comet, the light of a long extinguished world, even the particular pattern of atoms that once made up a page of a book, a melody, a face, does the specific particular information of what it was survive somewhere, encoded in that outgoing whisper of radiation, or is it truly erased, smoothed away into nothing but mass and spin and a featureless charge? This is called the information paradox, and it is not a flaw in anyone's understanding so much as a seam where two of physics' deepest and most trusted ideas, the smooth-flowing geometry of gravity and the strict bookkeeping of quantum mechanics, which insists nothing is ever truly lost, pull against each other without yet fitting all the way together. Some researchers picture the information smuggled out microscopically encoded in the wrinkles of that thin outgoing glow, a message written so faintly it would take longer than the universe has yet lived to read it in full. Others picture something stranger still, a hidden thread connecting the inside of the horizon to the radiation leaving it, so that nothing is ever fully cut off from anything else. Nobody has closed the question, and nobody expects to close it soon. It remains open. Unhurried, the kind of question you're allowed to fall asleep still holding, because the not knowing is not a hole in the world, only a horizon in our own understanding, waiting the way the edge of any dark room waits for the light to find it eventually. And while that question rests, unresolved and unrushed, the black holes themselves are already doing something else entirely, something almost domestic in scale. They are keeping house. At the center of nearly every great spiral of stars, including the one that cradles your own small world, sits an enormous, ancient black hole, not a wound in the galaxy but closer to a keel, a steadying weight low in the hull that lets everything else settle into its long, unhurried orbit. Long before the sun had lit itself, before the Earth had finished cooling into rock and water, that central weight was already there, gathering gas, coaxing scattered matter into the wide spiraling arms a galaxy needs to hold itself together instead of drifting apart into the dark. Stars formed along those arms, the way frost forms along a windowpane, following a pattern already laid down by something patient and unseen at the center. Over billions of years, the gravity of that central anchor helped stir and then settle the chaos of a young galaxy's formation, helped shape the wide arms that stars like the sun now drift along, lap after lap. So slowly that one full circuit takes 250 million years, a single turn of the wheel longer than the whole span of animal life on land. Without that heavy, patient anchor at the center, the galaxy you live inside might never have folded itself into anything so orderly, so livable, so hospitable to a small blue world with oceans and evenings and a bed you are lying in right now, tucked into one quiet arm of a much larger, much older turning. So the thing that seemed only a few movements ago, like the most uncompromising trap in the universe, the place from which nothing, not even light, could ever return, turns out, on this longer timescale, to be something closer to a participant in a larger, slower cycle. It takes in. It holds. Over spans of time too vast for any single word to hold comfortably, it gives back. In radiation, in gravity, in the shepherding pull that lets a galaxy become a garden instead of a scattering. Even the most irreversible fall you can imagine, the one your thread metaphor has walked beside all night, the one-way crossing with no undoing, even that turns out to belong to something wider than itself. A rhythm that outlasts stars, outlasts species, outlasts the very idea of an ending as anything final. Falling, it turns out, is rarely the last word. It is usually just the beginning of a much longer, much slower story. And it is worth pausing, before the night eases further, on how strange it is that any of this is known at all. No human eye has ever seen a black hole directly. Not the collapse, not the horizon, not that thin one-way skin where light gives up trying to leave. No one has watched an evaporation, Not even the beginning of one, not even a single stray photon of that impossibly faint glow. Everything you have just been carried through, the curve of spacetime, the collapsing star, the horizon with nothing to mark it, the current no light can swim against, the slow patient exhale of a shrinking mass, was pieced together by small, mortal creatures on one small, ordinary world, working for centuries with nothing but careful thought, borrowed light, and an enormous, unhurried patience of their own. And yet none of this, the curved paths, the folded stars, the boundary with no seam, the current no light can swim against, was seen by anyone for a very long time. It was found the way a person finds their way towards sleep, not by force, not in a single stroke, but by small surrenders repeated across years, across whole lives, across generations of people willing to sit in the dark and simply watch. That is the last thread worth following tonight, before the night finishes closing over you. Not what a black hole is, but how such small, warm, breathing creatures on one modest blue world ever came to know that such things existed at all. The story begins long before anyone had a word for it, in an English village in 1783, with a country reverend named John Michel, who spent his evenings doing arithmetic by candlelight about light itself. He knew, from Newton, that anything thrown fast enough could escape a planet's pull, and that a heavier world would require a faster throw. So he asked a patient, almost sleepy question: what if a star were heavy enough and small enough that even light, the fastest thing there is, could not be thrown free of it? He called the idea a dark star, a body whose own brightness would be folded back inside itself, invisible not because it had gone out, but because its light could never leave home. He wrote his letter. It was read aloud to a learned society, and then, for well over a century, it simply rested. Not dismissed, not proven, just set down gently. The way a thought is set down at the edge of a mind before sleep, to be picked up again by someone else, later, in another dark. That someone else did not arrive until 1915, when a different kind of patience produced a different kind of answer. Einstein spent nearly a decade circling the idea that gravity was not a pull at all, but a shape, that mass could bend the very stage on which motion happens, and in November of that year, he finally set down the field equations of general relativity, 10 intertwined equations describing how matter tells space how to curve, and how curved space tells matter how to move. They were, by every account, forbiddingly difficult to solve. Einstein himself expected that no one would find an exact solution for years, if ever. He was allowed for a little while to simply hold the question open, the way a mind holds a problem loosely just before it dissolves into rest. The answer came faster than anyone expected, and from an unlikely resting place. Karl Schwarzschild was a German astronomer serving on the Russian front in the First World War, calculating artillery trajectories by day and by lamplight, in whatever quiet the war allowed him, working through Einstein's brand new equations by hand. Within a matter of weeks, he had found an exact solution, a precise description of the curved space around a single, simple, non-rotating mass, and he mailed it to Einstein from the trenches. Einstein was startled, delighted, and presented the solution to the Prussian Academy on Schwarzschild's behalf, since its author was still hundreds of miles away in the mud and the cold. Schwarzschild's equations contained, tucked inside them, a strange radius, the very boundary this night has already drifted past with you, the horizon at which escape becomes impossible. He would not live to see what that radius meant. Within months, he contracted an autoimmune disease at the front and died the following spring, having handed the universe one of its deepest secrets in a letter, and then closing his eyes for the last time without ever knowing he had done it. For decades afterward, almost no one believed the strange radius meant anything physical at all. It was treated as a mathematical curiosity, a place where the equations seemed to misbehave, surely papering over some flaw rather than describing a real place a star could actually become. Entire careers were spent politely doubting it. This too is worth resting on for a moment. Sometimes the truest things sit quietly in the margins of a page for a generation or more, waiting, not urgently, not impatiently, for someone to finally trust the arithmetic over the instinct that says it must be too strange to be real. Physicists in the 1930s and 40s, among them Chandrasekhar and Oppenheimer, kept returning to the collapsing stars this movement described earlier, kept finding the same boundary waiting for them no matter which road they took there, until the doubt slowly, unhurriedly, wore thin. It was not until the 1970s that the sky itself finally offered a witness. Astronomers pointed new X-ray telescopes, instruments able to see a kind of light our eyes were never built for, born only after rockets could carry a detector above the blanket of our own atmosphere, toward a flickering source in the constellation Cygnus, catalogued simply as Cygnus X1. They found a visible star locked in orbit around something they could not see at all, something whipping gas off its companion, drawing it into a thin spiraling disk, and heating that disk to such violence that it screamed in X-rays before the gas finally slipped over an edge with no surface to land on. It was the first strong candidate anyone had ever found, an invisible mass, calculated only indirectly from its pull on a visible partner, too heavy and too small and too dark to be anything else astronomers already knew. Even the young Stephen Hawking made a private, half-joking wager with a colleague that it would turn out not to be a black hole at all, a small insurance policy against a lifetime's work resting on something so strange. He conceded the bet years later, once the evidence had settled. The debate over whether Cygnus X1 truly qualified ran on for years regardless, patient and careful, the way any claim this strange deserves to be tested and retested before it is finally allowed to be believed. Then came a longer watch still. Beginning in the early 1990s, two separate teams of astronomers pointed their telescopes night after night, year after year at the exact center of our own galaxy, tracking a small cluster of stars as they swept around something invisible in tight, fast, looping orbits. For 20 years they simply watched, correcting for the blur of our own atmosphere, refining their instruments, adding one more data point to orbits so slow. On a human scale, that entire careers were spent watching a single ellipse close. What emerged from those 2 decades of quiet, unglamorous, night after night observation was a mass some 4 million times heavier than our sun, packed into a volume no larger than our solar system, sitting utterly still at the hub of the galaxy we call home. A black hole with a name now, Sagittarius A. 26,000 light-years from the bed you are lying in, watched into certainty by nothing more dramatic than sustained, tender attention. In September of 2015, a new kind of ear was turned toward the sky. 2 enormous detectors, built to sense a stretching and squeezing of space itself, smaller than a fraction of an atomic nucleus, caught a signal lasting 1/5 of a second, a rising chirp, fainter and quicker than a single heartbeat. The sound, translated into something audible, of 2 black holes far across the universe, spiraling together, and merging into one. It had taken a century since Einstein's equations for the technology to become sensitive enough to hear something that faint, that far away, that old. The chirp had been traveling toward us for over 1 billion years, patient beyond any human patience, before it finally arrived and was, at last, listened for correctly. And then, in 2019, the longest and most collaborative watch of all bore its quietest fruit, a network of radio telescopes spread across the whole width of the Earth, linked together and treated as one instrument the size of the planet itself, produced a single image, a soft, glowing, faintly orange ring of light bent around a shadow, the first picture ever made of a black hole's silhouette against the gas falling gently toward it. It took years of data, gathered in patient sessions, to resolve into that one still frame. No one rushed it into being. It simply accumulated, slowly, the way understanding does, until it was ready to be seen. A reverend with a candle and a stray idea. A soldier solving equations between the shifts of a war. A generation of skeptics who needed the mathematics to earn their trust before they gave it. Astronomers returning to the same patch of sky for 20 years running. Telescopes listening for a signal fainter than any sound a human ear has ever caught. And finally, a picture built not from a single glance, but from the whole Earth watching together, unhurried, in the dark. None of it was forced into being. Each piece was simply allowed to arrive when it was ready, the way this night has been arriving around you all along. One soft observation resting on the last. The instruments finishing their long watches one by one, their lights dimming. Their astronomers finally leaving the eyepiece and letting their own eyes close, the whole long chain of patient looking settling now into something you no longer have to hold awake. Tonight has been about a long, slow curve of space, seen from a distance safe enough to simply watch it happen, gravity revealed not as a hand reaching out to grab you, but as a shape the world settles into. The same shape your body finds when it finally stops holding itself up. Tonight has been about a threshold that isn't a wall at all, only a hush past which light stops trying to come back, and about how crossing such a place would feel less like falling and more like being received, held, welcomed in. Tonight has been about time growing patient and enormous around something so dense that hours forget to hurry, where a night like this one could stretch, unnoticed, into something closer to forever. And forever, it turns out, is not a frightening word at all when there is no clock left to measure it against. And tonight has been about the long, careful work of people who spent lifetimes noticing the bend in starlight, the wobble in a distant orbit, the small clues an invisible thing leaves behind in everything it touches, proof gathered patiently by hands that never once needed to see the thing itself to know it was there, page after page, decade after decade, until the invisible thing had a shape. None of this needs anything from you tonight. You don't have to remember the shape of curved space, or the name of the threshold, or which century the proof arrived in, or any of the numbers that once seemed important. You don't have to hold on to any of it. It was never a test. It was only ever a place to rest your attention while your body did what it already knows how to do, which is to grow heavier and duller and less interested in staying awake, the same way it has done every night of your life, without once being told how. Remember that loosening thread from the beginning of the night, the one slipping, unhurried, between your fingers? Let it go now, all the way. It was never holding you up. It was only ever a companion for the drifting, and drifting is where we're headed, past any place that asks you to hold your shape, into a hush wide enough to lose yourself in without ever being lost. Somewhere behind you, the curve of space keeps curving, the threshold keeps its patient watch, and none of it needs you to keep watching back. It will still be there tomorrow. It has been there far longer than that. Another quiet exploration is already waiting on the screen, low and dim at the edge of your eyes, ready whenever you are. You don't need to reach for it, or choose it, or do anything at all. Just let it begin on its own, the way one thought follows another without any effort behind it, carrying you forward while you stay right here, sinking, unbothered by what comes next, because whatever comes next will carry itself. Here is something to loosen into, not to answer. If falling towards something so vast could feel this peaceful, this cared for, what else in your life might soften if you simply stopped trying to hold it up? You don't need to know. Let the question dissolve the way everything else has dissolved tonight. The curve of space, the threshold, the long stretch of time, the patient searchers, all of it folding softly into the dark behind your closing eyes. Feel the weight of the blanket. Feel the slow rise and fall of your own chest, asking for nothing, doing this on its own, the way it always has. Let your thoughts thin out into something closer to breath than to words. There is nowhere left to go tonight but down. And down is safe, and down is warm, and down is where we leave you now. Sleep well.